We started our trip Sunday 9:30, and we arrived in Sarajevo 10 in the noon. After that we got something to eat and access to our hostel. Monday we went on 2 trips. The first trip we drove around in a bus while a guide talked about Sarajevo's history. The other trip we went around town with a guide where he talked about more specific locations in Sarajevo. Tuesday we went to the Bosnian Parliament in Sarajevo, and there we had a guided tour of the building and we got an explanation on how Bosnian politics work. After that we went to a Bosnian school to see how such a school looks like and works. Wednesday we went to Srebrenica to see the place where the Great Massacre took place. We had a guide who experienced the massacre and he told us all about it. All this followed by a mountain trip in a bus. Thursday we went to a museum and got another history lesson about Sarajevo, and we got to see the things people made during the war. After that we went to Café Tito, which is a propaganda cafe about Tito. After that we got some assignments we had to complete before heading home to the hostel. Friday we looked at a couple of churches from different religions. After that we could do as we pleased. Saturday we went home at 10:30 in the morning, and we arrived at our school 10:30 at noon.
The contrast from the past to the present of Sarajevo in terms of the siege in 1992 to 1995 are very distinct in the way that many new buildings have arisen while some buildings remain destroyed. Tall modern malls with all the favorite shops of the people and big fancy office buildings. But in between these new skyscrapers are ruins from the siege of Sarajevo still standing in their worst shape, and many apartment blocks are still full of bullet holes. Some of the ruins haven't been renovated because of the legal problems with the paperwork of the property, while many apartment blocks haven't been renovated because of the lack of funding from the government. Walking through Sarajevo, you both experience the dull past of the siege and the bright future of tomorrow.
Srebrenica is a small town in the mountains located in Republic Srpska, 10 kilometers from the Serbian border. During the war, the UN promised inhabitants in Srebrenica protection from the Bosnian Serb army led by Ratko Mladic. Unfortunately, the UN wasn't able to keep that promise, which resulted in the Bosnian Serb army taking control of Srebrenica. At the end of the war, Ratko Mladic ordered an ethnic cleansing, which meant that every Muslim boy and man from the age of 12 to 77 was gathered and driven to Srebrenica for execution. Today, this horrible event is called the Srebrenica Massacre, where over 8,000 people were brutally executed. A memorial was created to honor the victims of this tragedy, which we visited during our time in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
As we arrived in Srebrenica, we instantly noticed an unusually melancholic atmosphere. The sky was grey, and in addition you could feel it was on the verge of raining. The town was so silent that you would have been able to hear a penny drop. We were guided towards the exhibition and met up with an actual survivor of the Srebrenica genocide. After entering the exhibition, we sat down and got to listen to first-hand witness the experiences from the survivor. You could tell that he was still traumatized from some of the events that took place no longer than around 23 years ago. Afterwards, the survivor put on a documentary depicting the horrific conditions of the victims, which gave us an even more comprehensive insight into the massacre. When it ended, we moved on to experience the actual exhibition, which contained material from that point in time. This was followed by a final walk around the outside memorial by the victims' graves.